My father was not a sentimental man in the ways people usually mean. He didn't keep letters or birthday cards. He didn't cry at movies. He once threw away a box of my childhood drawings because, he said, he'd already memorized his favorites and didn't see the point of storing what he already carried. I was furious about that for years. Then, at some point I can't precisely identify, it became one of my favorite things about him. He died on a Wednesday in October, quietly, in a hospital bed, with me holding one hand and a nurse he'd apparently charmed over 4 days of admission holding the other. He'd had a stroke the previous Saturday. He never fully came back from it. The doctors were kind, which somehow made it worse. Kindness in those hallways always means they've already decided something you haven't agreed to yet. I spent the next 3 weeks in a fog that felt nothing like the grief I'd read about. It wasn't waves, it was weather. Ambient and total, present in everything, the way humidity is present. I went back to work after 10 days because I didn't know what else to do with my hands. I called his number twice before I remembered, and both times I let it ring until voicemail picked up, just to hear his voice on the recording. "You've reached Ray. Leave a message and I'll get back to you when I get to it." Unhurried. A little amused, the way he always was. Like life was a series of things happening slightly faster than he intended, but nothing to get worked up about. On the 22nd day, I went to his apartment to start clearing it out. I wasn't ready. I don't think readiness is actually a state you can achieve for something like this. I think you just go, and your body does the work while your mind floats slightly above it, observing. I wrapped his dishes in newspaper. I sorted his clothes into bags. I found, in the back of his closet, a shoebox containing every birthday card I'd ever sent him, rubber-banded by decade. He had told me he didn't keep cards. He had kept every single one. I sat on his closet floor for a while after that. The phone was in a kitchen drawer, beneath a rubber band ball and a coupon for a pizza place that had shut down years ago. It was an older model, the screen cracked in the corner, the case worn smooth at the edges from years of handling. I almost put it in the donation box. Instead, I plugged it into the charger I found coiled beside the toaster and waited. It still worked. I spent an hour going through it slowly, the way you move through a house after someone leaves. Carefully, aware that everything is both ordinary and unbearable. There was a game of solitaire left mid-hand, a notes app full of grocery lists, hardware store reminders, a single entry that just said, "Ask Claire about the thing with the lease," that I would never be able to decode now. There was a photo of me from the previous Christmas, taken from across the room without my knowing. I was laughing at something. I looked completely, unconditionally happy. I remembered that day. I hadn't felt the way I looked. Then I found the voicemails. 246 of them. All outgoing. All to the same number, logged over the last 14 months of his life, sometimes 3 or 4 in a single day. I didn't recognize the contact name. He'd saved it only as a string of initials I couldn't parse. But the number itself nagged at me. Something about the area code, the particular rhythm of the digits. I called it. It rang in my coat pocket. I stood in the middle of his kitchen for a long time. The refrigerator hummed. Outside, a car alarm went off and then silenced itself. I looked at his phone in my hand and my phone in my other hand, and I thought, this is the part where something is explained. But nothing was explained. There was just the late afternoon light coming through his window, and the 2 phones, and the silence. I sat down at his kitchen table, his chair, not the one I always used when I came for dinner, and I started from the beginning. His voice came through the small speaker, and it was so familiar, so completely and precisely him, that I had to set the phone down for a moment and press both palms flat on the table. Then I picked it back up. In the first message, he was hesitant, almost formal. "I don't know if this works the way I think it does," he said. "I don't know if you'll ever hear any of these, but Dr. Okafor said to try talking to you directly, so here I am, feeling a bit ridiculous, leaving a voicemail for my daughter on a number that I'm told is hers, even though she's never mentioned it. Anyway, hi Claire, it's your dad. Dr. Okafor was his grief counselor. He'd started seeing her after my mother died, 4 years before his own death, and he'd never told me he was going. I'd only found out by accident, a billing statement left on the counter. When I'd asked him about it, he'd shrugged and said, "She's good to talk to. You should try it sometime." He hadn't seemed embarrassed. He'd seemed like a man who had quietly decided to take care of himself and saw no reason to make it a production. I don't know exactly what Dr. Okafor told him. I don't know if she gave him my number or if he found it some other way, or if the number came from somewhere I don't have a framework to understand. What I know is that he'd been leaving me messages for over a year, steadily and faithfully, and not one of them had arrived. I listened to all 246 over the course of 3 days. I didn't go home. I slept on his couch under the blanket he kept there, the one that had been my mother's, and I ate cereal from his cupboard, and I listened. He talked about my mother, about specific things he missed, small, ridiculous things, the way she could never remember the word for spatula and would just gesture at the drawer and say the flipper. He talked about his own father, who had died when he was 19, and how he had never properly grieved him, and how Dr. Okafor was helping him understand that it was not too late to do that work. He talked about me, about watching me grow up, about the particular pride of seeing a person become entirely themselves. He said in message 67 that I had always been braver than I knew. He said it like a fact, not a comfort. In message 112, he said, "You're going to be okay. I need you to know that. Not as a platitude, not because I can see the future, but because I know you. And I think you forget sometimes that I know you. That I've been watching you handle hard things your whole life, and you always, always come through. So whatever it is you're dealing with when you hear this, and I hope you're hearing this, I really do, I need you to remember that." I had to stop after that one. I walked to his window and looked out at the street for a while. The last message was 43 seconds long. He'd left it 6 days before the stroke. His voice was tired. I could hear it now. The particular fatigue I'd noticed in those last months and told myself was just getting older. He said my name. He said he loved me more than he'd probably ever made clear, and that was a failure of expression, not of feeling. He said he had this strange sense lately that I could hear him somehow, that maybe the distance didn't work the way we thought it did. Anyway, he said, the same word he'd started with, 14 months earlier. That's all. That's the whole thing. I pressed the phone against my chest and sat in his chair and let the dark come in around me. And I didn't move for a long time, and I didn't try to.